The ink was barely dry on the divorce papers when the laughter started. It echoed off the marble walls of the courthouse hallway, sharp and cruel. Liam stood there, his arm draped possessively around his mistress, Chloe, shaking his head at the woman he had just discarded. To them, Sophia was nothing more than a bad investment, a broke, quiet housewife who had dragged down his rising star. They watched her walk toward the exit in a faded coat, clutching a manila envelope containing a settlement that wouldn't cover a month's rent in the city. Liam shouted, "Don't come crawling back when you realize the real world eats people like you alive." Sophia didn't turn around. She didn't cry. She simply adjusted her sunglasses, stepped out into the blinding afternoon sun, and dialed a number on her burner phone. "It's done," she said, her voice turning ice cold. "Authorize the acquisition. I want to own everything he touches by morning." The gavel came down with a hollow thud that signaled the end of 5 years of marriage. Inside Superior Court Department 14, the air smelled of stale coffee and floor wax. Sophia Hart sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap. She wore a charcoal grey dress that had seen better days, the fabric slightly pilled at the elbows. Her hair was pulled back in a severe, practical bun, exposing a face devoid of makeup, and, to the casual observer, devoid of emotion. Across the mahogany table, Liam Prescott looked like he had already won the lottery. He adjusted the cuffs of his bespoke Italian suit, a purchase he had made 3 weeks ago, using their joint savings account, claiming it was an investment in his image. Beside him sat Arthur Pendergrass, a divorce attorney known in the city as the Shark, who charged $600 an hour to destroy lives. "Your Honor," Pendergrass said, his voice dripping with false sympathy, "my client is being exceptionally generous, considering Mrs. Prescott's lack of contribution to the marital assets. We are offering a lump sum of $10,000 to assist with her transition. In exchange, she waives all rights to future alimony and any claim on Mr. Prescott's future earnings, specifically regarding his pending partnership at Meridian Capital." The judge, a tired-looking man named Henderson, peered over his spectacles at Sophia. "Mrs. Prescott, do you understand these terms? $10,000 is a very modest sum given the duration of the marriage." Liam smirked, leaning back in his chair. He didn't even look at Sophia. He was checking his watch, a flashy Rolex Submariner he'd bought to celebrate his promotion before the divorce was even finalized. He had a lunch reservation at Le Bernardin with Chloe, and he didn't want to be late. "I understand, Your Honor," Sophia said softly. Her voice was steady, surprising Pendergrass, who had expected tears or a scene. "And you accept?" Judge Henderson asked, frowning. "I do," Sophia replied. "I just want a clean break. No ties, no contact." Pendergrass slid the papers across the table. "Sign here, and this clause here. It's a non-disclosure agreement. Liam values his privacy as he ascends the corporate ladder. You are not to discuss the details of this marriage or his financial status with the press or on social media." Sophia took the pen. For a split second, her eyes met Liam's. In his eyes, she saw nothing but arrogance and relief. He saw her as a burden he was finally shedding. He had no idea that the burden had been the only thing protecting him from the harsh realities of the corporate world. She signed, Sophia Hart. "Done," Pendergrass announced, snapping the folder shut. "Congratulations, Liam. You're a free man." Liam stood up, buttoning his jacket. He finally turned to Sophia, a sneer curling his lip. "You know, Soph, I almost feel bad for you. You never really had any ambition. You were content to stay in that small apartment, couponing and cooking stew, while I was out there building an empire." Empire, Sophia repeated, the word tasting strange in her mouth. Yes. Meridian Capital is about to announce the new regional vice presidents. I'm a shoo-in, Liam bragged, his chest puffing out. Chloe, she works in marketing there. She says the board is already talking about me. I need a partner who fits that life. Someone who shines. You just fade into the wallpaper. I hope you find what you're looking for, Liam, Sophia said, standing up. She picked up the small envelope containing the check for $10,000. Oh, I already have, Liam laughed. Do yourself a favor. Take that money, move back to whatever small town you came from, and find a nice mechanic. That's more your speed. Sophia turned and walked toward the heavy wooden doors. As she pushed them open, she heard Liam laughing with his lawyer. God, that was easier than I thought, Liam chuckled. I thought she'd fight for the condo. She didn't even know I put the title in my brother's name last month. She's a simpleton, Liam, Pendergrass replied. You outgrew her. Sophia stepped into the hallway. The laughter followed her, piercing and distinct. Waiting near the elevators was a woman in a striking red dress, tapping away on a phone. Chloe. She was beautiful, sharp-featured, and radiated the kind of aggressive ambition that Liam found intoxicating. When she saw Sophia, she didn't look away. She smiled, a predator's smile. Is it done? Chloe asked, looking past Sophia to Liam, who was emerging from the courtroom. Signed, sealed, delivered, Liam announced, grabbing Chloe by the waist and kissing her cheek. I am officially single. Chloe glanced at Sophia, looking her up and down with disdain. Cute outfit. Good luck with the job hunt, sweetie. I hear Walmart is hiring greeters. They laughed together, the sound bouncing off the marble walls, echoing in Sophia's ears. They laughed as she left. Sophia kept walking. She pushed through the revolving doors and stepped out onto the courthouse steps. The city noise, horns, sirens, the hum of traffic, washed over her. She walked down the steps, past the taxi stand, where Liam's leased Porsche was waiting. She continued down the block, around the corner, and into a narrow alleyway, where a black sedan with tinted windows was idling. It wasn't a luxury car that screamed wealth. It was a discreet, armored Audi A8 Security Edition, the kind used by heads of state. The rear door opened before she even reached it. Sophia slid inside, the plush leather interior a stark contrast to the hard wooden bench of the courtroom. She exhaled, a long, shuddering breath, and then her posture changed. The slump in her shoulders vanished, her chin lifted. The dull expression in her eyes was replaced by a razor-sharp intensity. A man in the front passenger seat turned around. He was older, with silver hair and a tablet in his hand. This was Preston, her chief of staff, and the only person who knew the full extent of her portfolio. How did it go, Ma'am? Preston asked respectfully. Sophia pulled the pins from her hair, letting the dark waves cascade down her shoulders. She removed the cheap glasses she wore to look meek and tossed them onto the seat. He signed the waiver, Sophia said, her voice dropping an octave, commanding and resonant. He waived all rights to my assets, present and future, in perpetuity. Preston tapped his tablet. Excellent. That secures the trust. The liquidity event for the Asian markets is scheduled for tomorrow. And the personal situation? He thinks he's a vice president at Meridian Capital, Sophia said, a dark amusement playing on her lips. He thinks he's going to rule the world with Chloe Vane. An interesting theory, Preston noted dryly, considering the acquisition was finalized 20 minutes ago. Sophia looked out the tinted window as the car merged seamlessly into the heavy traffic. Does the board know yet? Only the chairman. The general staff at Meridian, including Mr. Prescott, are unaware of the change in ownership. They believe it's a standard merger with a shell company. They don't know the shell company belongs to the Hart Sovereign Group. Good, Sophia said. Let them enjoy their lunch. Liam wants a life of high stakes and power. I'm going to give him a front row seat. What are your orders, Miss Hart? Sophia looked at the check for $10,000 still in her hand. She ripped it into tiny pieces and let them flutter to the floor of the car. Update the personnel files at Meridian, she commanded. I want a full audit of Liam Prescott's accounts. I want to know every expense he charged to the company, every client he lied to, and every rule he bent. And Preston? Yes, ma'am? Organize the grand gala for the acquisition announcement. Make it mandatory for all Meridian executives. I want Liam and Chloe there. And your attire for the evening? Sophia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something that screams owner. It's time they met the billionaire they've been laughing at. Liam Prescott felt like a king. The lunch at Le Bernardin had been exquisite. He and Chloe had consumed 2 bottles of Dom Perignon, toasting to their freedom and their future. To us, Chloe purred, clinking her glass against his, and to the fact that you finally dropped the dead weight. I should have done it years ago, Liam admitted, devouring a scallop. Sophia was suffocating. She was always worried about money, always asking if we could afford things. She had no vision. When I told her about the Meridian partnership, she asked if it meant longer hours. Can you believe that? No concept of the hustle. Well, you don't have to worry about her anymore, Chloe said, checking her makeup in her compact mirror. She's history. Now we need to focus on Friday. Friday? Liam asked, slightly hazy from the wine. The gala, Liam. Wake up, Chloe snapped playfully. The internal memo went out this morning while you were in court. The new parent company, some massive conglomerate called Apex Ventures or something, is hosting a mandatory black tie gala at the St. Regis. Rumor has it the new owner is going to be there to announce the restructuring. Liam straightened up, the alcohol buzzing pleasantly in his head. Restructuring usually means promotions for the top performers, and my numbers this quarter were the highest in the division. Exactly, Chloe grinned. This is your moment. You're going to walk in there, charm the new owners, and secure that VP spot, and I'll be right by your side, looking fabulous. Liam reached across the table and took her hand. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Chloe. We're a power couple. That's what I always wanted. Meanwhile, across the city, the atmosphere was vastly different. The Hart Sovereign Group headquarters was a skyscraper of glass and steel that pierced the skyline, a building that Liam drove past every day without knowing his wife owned it. The top 3 floors were a fortress of solitude and high-frequency trading. Sophia stepped out of the private elevator on the penthouse floor. She had changed from her courtroom costume into a tailored white suit that cost more than Liam's car. Her demeanor was brisk, efficient. The staff, analysts, legal teams, security personnel stood up as she passed. Miss Hart, a young woman named Sarah, approached with a tablet. The audit on Meridian Capital is 30% complete. We've found irregularities. Sophia didn't break stride, walking toward her office, which offered a panoramic view of the harbor. Define irregularities. It appears Mr. Prescott has been funneling client entertainment funds into personal expenses, Sarah said nervously. High-end hotels, jewelry stores, specifically a diamond bracelet purchased last month from Cartier. Sophia stopped at the door to her office. She remembered that bracelet. She had seen the receipt in Liam's jacket pocket when she was doing laundry. When she asked him about it, he told her it was a gift for a client's wife. He had screamed at her for snooping. A client's wife, Sophia murmured, or Chloe Vane. The delivery address was Miss Vane's apartment, Sarah confirmed. Add it to the file, Sophia said calmly. What else? There's also a matter of intellectual property. It seems Mr. Prescott's record-breaking proposal for the Kensington project. Well, the timestamps on the documents suggest he didn't write it. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Who did? A junior analyst named Toby Clark. It looks like Liam bullied him into handing over the work and then threatened to fire him if he spoke up. We found the email chains on the server backup. Sophia sighed. It was worse than she thought. She knew Liam was ambitious, but she hadn't realized he was corrupt. She had kept her wealth hidden from him because she wanted to be loved for herself, not her billions. Her parents had died, leaving her the Hart fortune when she was 20, and she had spent her life guarding it from gold diggers. When she met Liam, he was a charming, struggling grad student. She thought they were building a life together from scratch. She had paid off his student loans anonymously. She had used her connections to get him the interview at Meridian, pulling strings from behind the curtain so he would feel he earned it. And in return, he had grown entitled, cheating on her and stealing credit from subordinates. "Bring Toby Clark to the gala," Sophia said. "Make sure he has a tuxedo." "Yes, ma'am." Sophia walked into her office and stood by the window. Below her, the city crawled like an ant farm. She pulled out her phone and looked at a photo from 5 years ago, her and Liam on their honeymoon, eating pizza on a curb. He had looked at her with such adoration then. "Money didn't change you, Liam," she whispered to the empty room. "It just revealed who you really were." The intercom buzzed. It was Preston. "Ms. Hart, the CEO of Meridian Capital, Mr. CEO, is on the line. He's panicking. He's heard rumors that the new owner is planning a red wedding style firing." Sophia pressed the button. "Put him through." "Ms. Hart," the CEO's voice was trembling. "It is an honor. I had no idea the acquisition was happening so fast. I hope you know that Meridian has been performing." "Save it for the gala, George," Sophia cut him off. Her voice was smooth, terrifyingly calm. "I'm looking forward to meeting your team, especially your rising stars. I hear a Mr. Liam Prescott is quite the character." "Oh, yes, Liam," the CEO stammered, clearly eager to please. "Top-notch, a real shark. He's definitely management material. If he's on your radar, that's excellent." "He is certainly on my radar," Sophia said. "Make sure he is front and center on Friday night. I have a special presentation planned for him." "Of course, Ms. Hart. Anything you need." "And George?" "Yes. Make sure the press is there. All of them. Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, even the tabloids. I want the world to see the new face of Meridian." She ended the call. Sophia turned back to the window. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the city. Friday was in 2 days. 2 days until the masquerade ended. She felt a strange mixture of sorrow and adrenaline. The shy, mousy housewife Liam had divorced was dead. The billionaire was about to take the stage. The morning before the grand gala, the sky over the city was a bruised purple, threatening a storm that mirrored the turbulence about to be unleashed on Meridian Capital. Liam Prescott stood in the center of the VIP fitting room at Maison de Luxe, a high-end boutique on Fifth Avenue, known for serving celebrities and hedge fund managers. He was surrounded by mirrors, admiring the fit of a midnight blue tuxedo with a velvet lapel. It was ostentatious, expensive, and exactly what he thought a regional vice president should wear. "It fits like a glove, sir," the tailor said, pinning the hem of the trousers. "It better," Liam replied, checking his profile. "I need to look like I own the room tomorrow night. The new owners are coming. First impressions are everything." Chloe sat on a plush velvet ottoman nearby, sipping complimentary champagne. She was scrolling through her phone, looking at real estate listings for penthouses in Tribeca. "Liam, look at this one. It has a private elevator and a view of the Hudson. Only $4 million. With your promotion bonus, we could put down the deposit next month." "Book a viewing," Liam said dismissively, not even looking at the price. "Once I'm VP, $4 million will be pocket change." He turned to the sales associate. "I'll take it, and the silk bow tie, and those cufflinks in the display case, the onyx ones." When it came time to pay, Liam slapped his platinum credit card onto the counter with a flourish. The associate ran it. A moment later, a discreet beep sounded. "I'm sorry, sir," the associate said quietly. "The card has been declined." Liam's face flushed a deep crimson. "That's impossible. Run it again." "I have, sir. Twice. It says, 'Refer to issuer.'" "It's a bank error," Liam snapped, loud enough for other customers to turn their heads. "My ex-wife probably messed with the joint accounts before I cut her off. She's vindictive like that. Poor people always are." He fumbled in his wallet and pulled out another card, the heavy Corporate American Express black card issued by Meridian Capital. It was strictly for client expenses and travel, with a strict policy against personal use. But Liam didn't care. He was about to be VP. He wrote the rules now. "Use this one," he commanded. As the transaction went through, a man in a quiet grey suit standing near the tie rack watched the entire exchange. It was Preston, Sophia's chief of staff. He wasn't there to shop. He was there to observe. He adjusted his glasses, made a note on his phone, and walked out of the store. Liam never even noticed him. While Liam was digging his financial grave, Sophia was in the war room at Heart Sovereign Group. The room was a technological marvel, with walls of screens displaying global market trends, news feeds, and live data from her various subsidiaries. Sophia sat at the head of the table. Gone was the faded cardigan and the slumped posture. She wore a tailored crimson blazer that commanded attention, her hair cascading in glossy waves. She looked every inch the billionaire she was, a woman whose net worth rivaled the GDP of small countries. "The trap is set, Ms. Hart," Preston announced, walking into the room. He just charged $12,000 to the company account for personal attire. That is a direct violation of Article 4 of his employment contract. Coupled with the embezzlement investigation, we have grounds for immediate termination, with cause. "Termination is too easy, Preston," Sophia said, her eyes fixed on a screen displaying a flowchart of Meridian's hierarchy. "He needs to be exposed. If I just fire him, he'll spin it. He'll tell everyone he left because of creative differences. He'll victimize himself. No, I need him to destroy himself in front of an audience." She turned to the young man sitting nervously at the far end of the table. Toby Clark looked like he wanted to disappear. He was 24, brilliant and terrified. "Toby," Sophia said gently, "I've read your original proposal for the Kensington project. It's brilliant. The algorithm you developed for predicting market volatility is years ahead of its time." Toby swallowed hard. "Thank you, Miss Hart. But Mr. Prescott said it was garbage. He said he had to rewrite the whole thing just to make it readable." "Liam Prescott wouldn't know an algorithm from a grocery list," Sophia said dryly. "He took your work, put his name on it, and locked you in the basement. That ends tomorrow." "You want me to speak at the gala?" Toby asked, his voice trembling. "No," Sophia shook her head. "I want you to accept the award." What? "The Innovator of the Year award. I'm creating it specifically for tomorrow night. When they call the name for the creator of the Kensington project, Liam is going to stand up. I need you to be ready to walk on stage when I correct him." Toby straightened up, a spark of confidence returning to his eyes. He threatened to blacklist me if I ever told anyone. "Let him try," Sophia said, her voice turning cold as steel. "He's playing checkers, Toby. We're playing chess, and I just bought the board." Sophia stood up and walked to the window. "Preston, ensure the seating chart is arranged as discussed. Liam and Chloe at table 1, right in front of the podium." "And your entrance, ma'am?" "I'll enter last," Sophia said, "after the appetizers. I want them to be comfortable. I want them to feel safe. And then I want to turn on the lights." The St. Regis, New York was a beacon of old-world luxury. Its ballroom was legendary, a cavern of gold leaf, crystal chandeliers, and history. For the Meridian Capital Acquisition Gala, the Hart Sovereign Group had spared no expense. The theme was New Horizons, a fitting title for what was about to happen. Outside, a fleet of limousines choked the street. Paparazzi lined the velvet ropes, their flashbulbs popping like strobe lights. They were there because a rumor had been leaked to the press. The reclusive owner of the Hart Sovereign Group, a figure shrouded in mystery, was finally stepping into the public eye. Liam's leased Porsche pulled up to the curb. He stepped out, adjusting his velvet lapel, and extended a hand to Chloe. She emerged in a shimmering silver gown that clung to her body like a second skin. It was backless, daring, and expensive. Paid for, of course, with the money Liam should have used to pay his divorce lawyer. "Showtime," Liam whispered, flashing his white-toothed smile at the cameras. They walked the red carpet, Liam waving to photographers who were largely ignoring him in favor of the actual industry titans arriving behind him. But in his mind, the flashes were all for him. "Mr. Prescott, Mr. Prescott," a reporter from a financial blog called out. "Rumor has it you're in line for the VP position under the new ownership. Any comment?" Liam stopped, soaking in the attention. "Let's just say that hard work pays off. Meridian is entering a golden age, and I plan to be at the helm." He winked and guided Chloe inside. The ballroom was breathtaking. Centerpieces of white orchids towered over tables set with fine china and silver. A string quartet played softly in the corner. The room was filling up with the elite of the financial world, CEOs, investors, and politicians. "My God, Liam," Chloe whispered, clutching his arm. "Look over there. That's the CEO of Goldman Sachs, and there's the senator." "Get used to it, babe," Liam said, grabbing 2 flutes of champagne from a passing waiter. "This is our peer group now." They found their way to table 1. It was the prime spot, directly in front of the elevated stage where a podium stood, emblazoned with the logos of Meridian Capital and the Hart Sovereign Group. Sitting at the table was George Callan, the current CEO of Meridian. He looked pale and was sweating profusely, dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief. "George!" Liam boomed, slapping the older man on the back. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Relax, it's a celebration." George looked up at Liam with a mixture of pity and terror. "Liam, you're here. Of course I'm here. I'm the star of the show, aren't I?" Liam laughed, pulling out a chair for Chloe. "So, who is this mystery billionaire? Have you met him? Is he a tough old bird?" I haven't met the owner in person," George stammered, "only the chief of staff. But I hear the owner is very particular about ethics." "Ethics," Liam scoffed, taking a sip of champagne. "Ethics are for people who can't afford good lawyers. In this business, it's eat or be eaten, and I, for one, am starving." Chloe giggled, leaning into him. "You're so bad." As the room filled, the lights dimmed slightly. The chatter died down as a voice boomed over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program is about to begin." Liam leaned back, crossing his legs. He scanned the room, looking for Sophia. He wanted her to be here. He wanted her to be a waitress, or cleaning up the tables, just so she could see him in his glory. But she was nowhere to be found. Probably crying in her studio apartment, he thought with a smirk. Suddenly, a hush fell over the room. The heavy double doors at the back of the ballroom swung open. A phalanx of security guards in black suits entered, clearing a path. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The air became electric. "Here we go," Liam whispered to Chloe, "the big boss man." But it wasn't a man. Walking through the doors, flanked by Preston and 2 other aides, was a woman. She was silhouetted against the light from the hallway, so her features were unclear at first, but her presence was undeniable. She moved with a grace that was almost predatory. The rustle of her dress, a custom couture gown in deep midnight blue silk, was the only sound in the room. As she stepped into the light of the ballroom chandeliers, a few gasps rippled through the crowd. She walked past the back tables, past the middle tables, her gaze fixed straight ahead. She didn't look left or right. Liam squinted. There was something familiar about her walk, the way she held her head high, but it couldn't be. The woman he knew wore clothes from Target and apologized for taking up space. This woman looked like she owned the oxygen in the room. She drew closer to table 1. Chloe's grip on Liam's arm tightened. "Liam," she hissed. "Liam, is that—" "Don't be stupid," Liam muttered, though his heart began to hammer against his ribs. "It just looks like her. Sophia doesn't own a dress like that. She doesn't even know how to walk in heels like that." The woman reached the front of the room. She stopped right at table 1. Slowly, she turned her head. The light caught her face, the high cheekbones he had once kissed, the dark eyes that used to look at him with love, now burning with a cold, terrifying intelligence. It was Sophia. But it wasn't his Sophia. This was a stranger wearing his wife's face. She looked down at him. Liam was frozen, his champagne glass halfway to his mouth. Chloe's mouth hung open. George Callan, the CEO, practically shrank under the table. Sophia didn't say a word. She simply held his gaze for 3 agonizing seconds, long enough for him to see the abyss opening up beneath his feet, and then offered a small, chilling smile. She turned and walked up the stairs to the stage. Preston stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice echoing through the silent hall. "It is my distinct honor to introduce the chairwoman of the Hart Sovereign Group and the new owner of Meridian Capital, Ms. Sophia Hart." The room erupted in polite applause, but at table 1 there was only a deafening silence. Liam felt the blood drain from his face. The glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor, the sound of breaking crystal cutting through the applause like a gunshot. "No," Liam whispered, his voice cracking. "That's impossible." Sophia stood at the podium, looking out over the sea of faces. She waited for the applause to die down. She waited for the sound of the shattered glass to settle. "Good evening," she said. Her voice was amplified, rich and commanding. "Tonight is a night of revelations. Tonight we clear away the old to build the new. But before we discuss the future—" Her eyes locked onto Liam again, pinning him to his chair like a butterfly on a board. "We need to take out the trash." The silence in the ballroom was absolute. It was the kind of silence that usually precedes a natural disaster, a tsunami drawing back the tide before the crash. Sophia stood at the podium, her hands resting lightly on the polished wood. She looked out at the sea of tuxedos and designer gowns, her expression unreadable. To the rest of the room, she was an enigma, a powerful new player on the global stage. To Liam, she was a ghost haunting him in high definition. Meridian Capital has long been a pillar of this city's financial sector, Sophia began, her voice steady. But a pillar is only as strong as its foundation. And recently, that foundation has been rotting. She pressed a button on the remote in her hand. The massive screen behind her, which had been displaying the company logo, shifted. It now displayed a complex financial graph, a jagged red line plummeting downward. For the past 6 months, my team at Heart Sovereign has been conducting a forensic audit of this firm, Sophia explained. We found brilliance, we found innovation, but we also found a cancer. Liam, still sitting in his chair with the shards of his champagne glass at his feet, felt a cold sweat prickling his neck. He tried to stand, to leave, to do something, but his legs felt like lead. We found that credit was being stolen, Sophia continued, her eyes drifting back to table 1. We found that the voices of our brightest young talent were being silenced by middle managers more interested in their own egos than the company's success. She paused. The Kensington Project, a revolutionary algorithm for predicting Asian market volatility. It was submitted to the board last month under the name of Mr. Liam Prescott. A spotlight snapped onto Liam. He blinked, blinded by the sudden glare. A murmur went through the crowd. Some people started clapping, thinking this was the award announcement. Liam, reacting on instinct, forced a wobbly smile and started to rise. "Sit down, Liam." Sophia's voice cracked through the air like a whip. The applause died instantly. Liam froze, halfway out of his chair. "You didn't write the Kensington proposal," Sophia said, her voice dropping to a conversational, almost bored tone that was infinitely more terrifying than a shout. "You couldn't even explain the math behind it if I gave you a cheat sheet. The metadata on the original files tells a different story." She gestured to the side of the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the actual architect of the Kensington Project, Mr. Toby Clark." Toby walked out from the wings. He looked nervous, tugging at the cuffs of his rented tuxedo, but when he saw Sophia nodding at him, he stood a little taller. The crowd, sensing the shift in power, erupted into genuine applause. Liam sank back into his chair. "She's lying," he hissed to Chloe. "She's jealous. She's trying to ruin me because I left her." But Chloe wasn't looking at him. She was staring at the stage, calculating. She saw the way the CEO, George Callan, was nodding in agreement with Sophia. She saw the way the security guards were edging closer to their table. "And then," Sophia continued, silencing the room again, "there is the matter of theft." The screen behind her changed again. This time it wasn't a graph. It was a series of scanned receipts and bank statements. They were blown up large enough for everyone in the back row to read. "Expense account 404, Sophia read from the screen. "Designated for client retention and business development, and yet we see charges for a 5-star suite at the Four Seasons in Miami. We see a charge for a leased Porsche 911, and my personal favorite." The screen zoomed in on a receipt from Cartier. A diamond tennis bracelet, valued at $12,000, purchased 3 weeks ago, listed in the expense report as gifts for the Japanese delegation. The crowd gasped. Whispers broke out like wildfire. "Embezzlement," someone muttered near them. "That's grand larceny." Sophia leaned into the microphone. "I checked with the Japanese delegation, Liam. They didn't get a bracelet. They got a fruit basket." She looked directly at Chloe Vane. "Chloe," Sophia said, addressing the mistress by name in front of 500 of New York's elite. "That's a lovely bracelet you're wearing. Would you mind checking the serial number for us?" The camera crews swung their lenses toward table 1. Chloe's face went pale. She instinctively covered her wrist with her other hand, but the damage was done. The guilt was written in neon across her face. "This man," Sophia pointed a finger at Liam, "has been parading around this city, acting the part of a tycoon, while spending money that wasn't his and taking credit for work he didn't do. He told me once that he needed a partner who shined. He told me I was dead weight." Sophia smiled, but there was no warmth in it. It was the smile of a predator who had finished playing with its food. "Well, Liam, I'm shining now. Are you watching?" "This is slander," Liam screamed, finally finding his voice. He jumped up, knocking his chair over. "You can't do this. I'll sue you. I have rights." "You have nothing," Sophia corrected him calmly. "You signed a waiver yesterday. Remember, you wanted a clean break. You wanted no ties to my assets. Well, Meridian Capital is my asset, and you are trespassing." She looked at the security team stationed at the perimeter of the room. "Get him out of my sight." The moment the order was given, the illusion of Liam Prescott's life shattered completely. 2 security guards, massive men with necks as thick as tree trunks, moved toward Table 1 with professional speed. Liam scrambled back, stumbling over the fallen chair. "Don't touch me!" Liam shouted, his voice cracking into a high-pitched squeal. "Do you know who I am? I'm the regional vice president. George, tell them." He turned to George Callan, grasping for a lifeline. But the CEO of Meridian Capital was busy studying the tablecloth, refusing to make eye contact. George knew which way the wind was blowing, and he wasn't about to get caught in the tornado. "George!" Liam pleaded, grabbing the older man's shoulder. George shrugged him off violently. "Get your hands off me, Prescott. You're fired, effective immediately." Liam reeled back as if slapped. He turned to Chloe, his eyes wild. "Chloe, baby, we have to go. We'll call Arthur. We'll sue them for defamation. Come on." He reached for her hand. Chloe Vane stood up. She looked at Liam's outstretched hand, then up at his sweating, panicked face. Then she looked at the stage, where Sophia Hart stood like a goddess of vengeance, surrounded by the adoration of the room. The calculation in Chloe's eyes was cold and instant. Liam was a sinking ship. He was broke, fired, and publicly humiliated. He was radioactive. "Don't touch me," Chloe said, her voice loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "What?" Liam blinked, confused. "I said, don't touch me," Chloe repeated, stepping back. She looked at the security guards. "I didn't know. He told me he bought the bracelet with his bonus. I had no idea he stole it. I'm a victim here, too." She began to unclasp the diamond bracelet from her wrist. "Chloe," Liam whispered, the betrayal hitting him harder than the firing. "What are you doing?" "I'm not going down with you, Liam," she hissed. She dropped the bracelet onto the table with a clatter. "You're a fraud. You've always been a fraud." "But we're a power couple," Liam stammered. "You're unemployed," Chloe sneered. She turned to the approaching guards. "I'd like to be escorted to a taxi, please. I don't feel safe near this man." The crowd watched the spectacle with a mixture of shock and schadenfreude. This was the brutal reality of their world. Loyalty was a currency, and Liam was bankrupt. The guards grabbed Liam by the arms. He struggled, his tuxedo jacket bunching up, his bow tie askew. "Let go of me! Sophia! Sophia, please!" He looked up at the stage, his arrogance replaced by pathetic desperation. "Soph, it's me! It's Liam! We were married! You can't do this to me!" Sophia didn't even blink. She watched him being dragged away the same way one watches a bag of trash being taken to the curb, with mild relief that the smell would soon be gone. "You wanted the real world, Liam," Sophia said, her voice amplified through the speakers one last time. "Enjoy it." As they dragged him toward the exit, the doors swung open, but instead of the cool night air, Liam was met by a new nightmare. Flashes of light blinded him. The paparazzi he had preened for earlier were now joined by law enforcement. 2 officers from the NYPD's white-collar crime division were waiting, along with an agent from the SEC. "Liam Prescott?" the officer asked, stepping forward with handcuffs. "What?" "No, You are under arrest for corporate embezzlement, securities fraud, and grand larceny," the officer recited, spinning Liam around and slamming him against the wall. The cameras went wild. The photographers were shouting, capturing every agonizing second of his downfall. "Look this way, Liam. How does it feel to be caught? Is it true you stole from your wife?" Liam's face was pressed against the silk wallpaper of the St. Regis hallway. He saw Chloe walk past him, head down, disappearing into the night without a backward glance. He saw Arthur Pendergrass, his shark of a lawyer, standing in the crowd, shaking his head and typing on his phone, probably drafting a statement to distance himself from his former client. Back inside the ballroom, the mood shifted. The tension broke. The trash had been taken out, and now the air felt cleaner. Sophia stepped away from the podium. She walked down the stairs, not as a victim, but as a queen descending to her court. Toby Clark was waiting for her at the bottom of the steps. He looked awestruck. "Miss Hart. I've never seen anything like that." "Justice is rarely pretty, Toby," Sophia said quietly. "But it is necessary." She turned to Preston, who appeared at her elbow with a fresh glass of sparkling water. "Status?" Sophia asked. "The police have him in custody," Preston reported efficiently. "The press has the full dossier on his fraudulent activities. We released the evidence packet to the Wall Street Journal 5 minutes ago. By tomorrow morning, he won't be able to get a job sweeping floors in this city." "And the condo?" Sophia asked. The transfer to his brother was flagged as fraudulent conveyance, since it was done to hide assets during a divorce proceeding, Preston noted, with a small, rare smile. "Our legal team has already filed a motion to seize it. It will be returned to the marital pot, which, thanks to the waiver he signed, now belongs entirely to you." Sophia took a sip of water. "Good. Turn it into a shelter for women getting back on their feet. I don't want to live there." "Consider it done." George Callan approached them, looking humble and terrified. "Ms. Hart. Again, I had no idea about Liam's activities. I assure you, I will cooperate fully with the investigation." Sophia looked at the CEO. She knew he was weak, but he was useful for the transition. "You keep your job for now, George," Sophia said coolly. "But Toby here is your new head of analytics. He reports directly to me. And if I ever hear of you taking credit for someone else's work, you'll join Liam in the back of a squad car. Do we understand each other?" "Crystal clear, Miss Hart. Crystal clear." Sophia looked around the room. People were looking at her with awe, fear, and respect. They weren't laughing anymore. She had won. She had reclaimed her name, her company, and her dignity. But as the adrenaline faded, she felt a sudden wave of exhaustion. The game was over. The checkmate had been delivered. "Preston," she said softly, "I'm ready to go home." "To the penthouse, Ma'am?" "No," Sophia said, thinking of the quiet, dusty house in the Hamptons she hadn't visited in years, the one her parents had left her. "Take me to the beach house. I need to hear the ocean. I need to remember who I was before all this noise." "The car is waiting." As Sophia walked toward the exit, the crowd parted for her. It was a red sea of respect. She didn't look back at the broken glass on the floor or the empty chair where her husband had sat. She walked out into the cool night air, alone but free. The laughter was gone. The only sound was the clicking of cameras and the distant siren of the police car taking Liam Prescott to his new life. 6 months had passed since the night of the gala, But for Liam Prescott, time had become a fluid, agonizing loop. The bespoke Italian suits were gone, replaced by a jumpsuit in a dull, soul-crushing shade of orange. The view of the Manhattan skyline from the Meridian Capital offices had been traded for the grey cinder blocks of the Federal Correctional Institution in Otisville. Liam sat on the edge of his cot, staring at a small, flickering television mounted in the corner of the common area. It was the only window he had left to the world he used to think he owned. On the screen, a news anchor was standing in front of a gleaming new building in Brooklyn. The chyron at the bottom of the screen read, "Billionaire Sophia Hart unveils the Phoenix Center, a haven for domestic violence survivors." "Look at her," a fellow inmate grunted, chewing on a toothpick. "That's the lady who owns half the city now, right? She's a looker. Heard she took her ex-husband to the cleaners." Liam didn't say a word. He couldn't. His throat felt like it was stuffed with broken glass. The camera zoomed in on Sophia. She looked radiant, wearing a simple white dress that made her look like an angel, but her eyes held the steel of a warrior. She was cutting a ribbon with a pair of oversized gold scissors. Standing next to her, looking proud and confident, was Toby Clark, now the Chief Technology Officer of Meridian Capital. "We built this center," Sophia spoke into the microphones, her voice clear and resonant, "because no one should ever feel trapped. No one should ever feel that their worth is tied to a bank account or a partner's approval. Freedom is the most expensive luxury in the world, and today we are making it free for everyone who walks through these doors." Liam squeezed his eyes shut. The building she was standing in front of. It was the condo, the luxury apartment he had fought so hard to keep, the one he had hidden in his brother's name. She hadn't just taken it back. She had erased him from it completely. She had turned his monument of greed into a sanctuary for the people he used to mock. "Prescott, visitor!" a guard shouted, banging on the bars. Liam stood up, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. Maybe it was Chloe. Maybe she had forgiven him. Maybe she had found a way to bail him out. He shuffled to the visitation room, sitting behind the thick plexiglass. But it wasn't Chloe waiting for him. It was Arthur Pendergrass, his former lawyer. Arthur didn't look like a shark anymore. He looked tired. He placed a thin folder on the ledge. "What is this?" Liam asked, picking up the phone receiver. "The final judgment on the civil suits," Arthur said, his voice tinny through the speaker. "The SEC fines alone wiped out your 401k and your savings. The restitution to Meridian Capital took the rest. You are officially destitute, Liam." Chapter 7 bankruptcy wasn't enough to cover the debt. Your wages will be garnished for the next 30 years. 30 years, Liam whispered. "Arthur, you have to do something. Appeal it. Use the emotional distress angle." Arthur let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Emotional distress? Liam, you're the most hated man in New York finance. No judge is going to pity you. You embezzled from your wife while she was secretly funding your lifestyle. The optics are impossible." "Where is Chloe?" Liam asked, his voice breaking. "She hasn't answered my letters." Arthur began packing up his briefcase. "Chloe Vane. She left the city 3 months ago. No one would hire her after the scandal. I heard she's back in Ohio, working as a shift manager at a department store. She changed her name. She wants nothing to do with you." Liam watched Arthur stand up. "Wait, Arthur, don't leave me here. I have nothing." "You have exactly what you negotiated for in the divorce, Liam," Arthur said coldly. "A clean break." Arthur walked away, leaving Liam alone with his reflection in the plexiglass, a hollow, broken man who had held a diamond in his hand and traded it for a handful of gravel. Meanwhile, on the rooftop terrace of the Phoenix Center, the air was filled with the scent of jasmine and the sound of jazz. Sophia stood by the railing, looking out over the city lights. It was a clear night, the kind that made New York look like a jewelry box spilled onto black velvet. "It's a good turnout," a voice said beside her. Sophia turned to see Preston holding 2 glasses of sparkling cider. "The governor is here," Preston noted, "and the board of directors from the hospital. They're all very impressed with Toby's speech." "Toby is a good man," Sophia said, taking a glass. "He just needed someone to turn on the light so he could see his own shadow." "And you, Mom?" Preston asked, his tone softening. "How are you feeling? It's been a long road." Sophia took a sip, letting the bubbles dance on her tongue. She thought about the courtroom, the grey dress, the way Liam had laughed at her. It felt like a lifetime ago, a memory from a different person's life. "I feel light," Sophia admitted. "For years I was carrying a secret that weighed a ton. I thought I had to hide who I was to be loved. I thought my money was a barrier. And now? Now I know that the money is just a tool," she said, looking at the laughing guests, the survivors finding hope in the rooms below, the staff she had empowered. "The real power isn't in the bank account, Preston. It's in the ability to walk away from things that don't serve you. It's in the courage to be underestimated and not correct them until it's too late." Preston smiled. "There is one final matter. A letter arrived at the main office today, from the correctional facility." He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a wrinkled white envelope. The handwriting was messy, desperate. To Sophia. Sophia looked at the envelope. She knew what was inside. Apologies, excuses, promises that he had changed, begging. She didn't take it. "Do you want to read it?" Preston asked. Sophia looked out at the skyline, at the Empire State Building glowing in the distance. She thought about the woman she used to be, the one who would have torn that letter open, desperate for validation, desperate to hear that he was sorry. But that woman was gone. "No," Sophia said calmly. "I don't need his apology to be whole, and I don't need his regret to be happy." She took a lighter from her clutch, a small silver thing she kept for lighting candles. She flicked the flame to life and held it to the corner of the envelope in Preston's hand. They watched in silence as the paper curled and blackened, the flame eating away the name Liam Prescott until there was nothing left but ash. Preston let the last remnants drift away in the wind, scattering over the city streets below. "Burned bridges light the way nicely, don't they?" Preston murmured. "They certainly do," Sophia smiled. She turned her back on the city and the ashes of her past. "Come on, Preston. We have a company to run, and I hear the Asian markets are opening soon." She walked back into the party, into the warmth and the light, leaving the darkness behind her where it belonged. That is the story of Sophia Hart and Liam Prescott. It's a reminder that true value isn't found in a designer suit or a VP title, but in integrity, loyalty, and how you treat people when you think they have nothing to offer you. Liam chased the appearance of wealth and lost the reality of it, while Sophia proved that the quietest person in the room is often the one holding all the cards. If you enjoyed this story of karma, justice, and the ultimate comeback, please give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more stories like this. Don't forget to share this with a friend who needs a reminder that the truth always comes out in the end. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.